Coronation Street teases that Lisa has never truly let go of the haunting memory of Becky's death. The grief lingered like smoke trapped in a sealed room, restless, suffocating, and far from settled. For Lisa, the pain wasn't merely rooted in loss. It was the lingering feeling that something vital had been missed, something buried under half-truths and silence. The official narrative was simple, clean, and convenient. Becky died in a tragic accident, struck down by a vehicle that was never found. The investigation concluded swiftly, the file sealed without a trace of hesitation. But for Lisa, that conclusion left more questions than answers. The gaps in the timeline, the evasiveness of her colleagues, and the abruptness of the case's closure, it all gnawed at her relentlessly. Something about that night refused to let her go. There were whispers in the force, rumors that Becky had been under investigation herself for corruption. That was the hardest truth to confront. Not because Lisa didn't believe it was possible, but because it painted her final day in a different, unforgiving light. Becky hadn't just been a victim. She might have been a suspect. It also explained why Becky had been so agitated that morning, why the sisters had their bitter argument, the last words between them shouted, not spoken with love. Lisa had tried to move on. Carla had encouraged her to join the departmental therapy sessions, offering it as a step toward healing. Reluctantly, Lisa agreed. The session stirred painful memories, but it also unearthed a sense of purpose. She left the room not with closure, but with clarity. If she ever wanted peace, she would need to uncover the truth herself. What followed next was desperation cloaked in determination. Lisa waited for the right opportunity, watching, planning. One evening, after a late shift, she slipped into the CID office under the pretense of misplacing her phone. The building was mostly empty, and her heart pounded with every step. She knew exactly where to go, the inspector's cabinet. Locked, of course. But Lisa had always been good with numbers, and she had watched the inspector enter that code enough times. She found Becky's file buried beneath others marked as sensitive. The moment she opened it, a wave of nausea washed over her. Inside were photographs, statements, forensic reports, details she had never been shown. There were references to internal affairs, notations about a confidential informant, and mentions of unauthorized financial transfers linked to Becky's badge number. Lisa sat at the desk, hands trembling, scanning each page like it held the key to her sister's soul. One particular note caught her eye. A line redacted heavily, followed by an incident number she had never seen referenced before. She copied it down, snapped a few photos of critical documents, and locked everything away just as carefully as she found it. As she exited the building, she told herself it was for justice, but deep down, she knew she had crossed a line. Carla remained unaware. She continued to support Lisa from the sidelines, meeting for quiet coffees and encouraging her to take time off. Carla herself had started digging through archived complaints and closed case files, trying to make sense of what had happened to Becky. She believed the system had failed her colleague, but she didn't suspect Lisa was already knee-deep in her own rogue investigation. Lisa couldn't stop. Every detail she uncovered seemed to reinforce her suspicions. The idea that Becky had been killed by accident grew less plausible by the day. Her last known phone calls were wiped, her final report missing. The vehicle that hit her had vanished into thin air. Even the traffic cam footage from that street had been mysteriously corrupted. As she chased down leads, Lisa grew increasingly reckless. She met with a retired officer who had been close to Becky. Someone who hinted that Becky had found something she wasn't supposed to. Something about dirty money tied to a local developer and a senior official inside the station. The moment Becky started asking questions, she became a threat. Lisa tried to remain objective, but the personal stakes were too high. The closer she got to the truth, the more her judgment blurred. She stopped sleeping properly. She snapped at colleagues. She lied to Carla. And yet, nothing stopped her. One day, she followed up on the incident number from the redacted file. It led her to an archived complaint involving a minor crash weeks before Becky's death, filed by a woman who claimed to have been run off the road by a dark vehicle near the industrial estate. Lisa tracked down the woman, posing as a detective reopening cold cases. "Are you saying this has something to do with that policewoman who died?" the woman asked, visibly shaken. Lisa hesitated. "We're exploring all connections." The woman nodded slowly. There was someone else in the car. A man in the passenger seat. He looked furious. "I told that to the officer who took my statement. I never heard back." Another door opened, and with it, another lead. Lisa returned home that night to find Carla waiting outside her flat. "I went to the archive," Carla said simply. "Becky's files were checked out. And it wasn't an authorized request." Lisa's face paled. "Lisa, what have you done?" Lisa looked away, guilt twisting in her chest. "I needed to know the truth. No one else was going to help me." Carla stared at her, disappointment flickering beneath concern. "You're a detective. You know better. If this gets out, if they trace this back to you, you'll lose your job. Worse, you'll lose your credibility. And then who's going to fight for Becky?" Lisa said nothing. The silence stretched between them, heavy with consequence. What neither of them knew was that someone had already noticed Lisa's activities. The CCTV in the records room had flagged an after-hours entry. Her name was being whispered in offices. A decision loomed, discipline, perhaps even suspension. But Lisa had reached a point of no return. The truth, however dark, was closer than ever. And she would not stop now. Lisa couldn't sleep that night. Carla's words rang in her ears, but they were drowned by a louder voice inside her, Becky's. Or at least the echo of Becky's presence, urging her forward. Every corner of Weatherfield now seemed tied to a thread in the tangled mystery. Lisa had crossed a line, yes, but there was no turning back. Her sister had died alone and dishonored. That would not be the end of the story. The next morning, Lisa returned to the woman from the archived complaint. She needed more details, anything about the car, the man, the route. Over tea in a modest living room filled with family photographs, the woman revealed something else. "I remember the car had a dent on the front bumper. Black paint. The man in the passenger seat had a scar above his left eyebrow. I thought maybe it was nothing, but..." Lisa's stomach clenched. That small detail was everything. She had seen a man matching that description in an old photograph in Becky's file, one Becky had marked with a red pen. He was never named, just an unknown associate. Her next stop was Carla's office. Despite the tension between them, Lisa needed access to more internal archives. And if Carla wouldn't help her directly, perhaps her presence would make it easier to work undetected. Carla didn't trust Lisa fully anymore, but she also couldn't deny the fire in her friend's eyes. "Lisa, you have 2 hours. You get what you need and get out. After this, it's over. Do you understand?" Lisa nodded. But in her mind, the hunt had only just begun. Inside the records room, Lisa searched through archived field logs from Becky's last month on duty. She found notes referencing a joint operation. One that never made it to formal case files. The unit was unofficial. The target was a suspected ring of internal money laundering connected to a private security firm doing under-the-table work for the council. Becky had been gathering information. Alone. At the bottom of one folder, she found a visitor log from that very day. Someone had entered the building under false credentials. The name used was clearly fake. But the handwriting matched a familiar note she had seen in Becky's home, the one with a time and meeting point. It was a setup. Becky had been lured out. Lisa returned home, heart racing. She pieced together a timeline. Becky's argument with her that morning. Her disappearance for hours after that. Then the final moment, a call made from a payphone, logged on the CCTV timestamp, just 20 minutes before her death. The phone call had never been traced. Until now. Lisa drove to the old booth, still miraculously standing. It was only 2 streets away from the scrapyard. A place Becky had once mentioned investigating. Lisa broke in through the fence, walking carefully over shattered glass and rusted tools. Inside a half-burnt cabin, she found what she hadn't even known to look for, a folder marked Site B. Inside, more notes in Becky's handwriting. Names. License plates. Cash payments. Before she could take a breath, she heard footsteps. Lisa froze. Didn't think anyone still came round here, a voice said from behind. It was a man in a high-vis vest, mid-50s, with a scar above his left eyebrow. I was just looking for my dog, Lisa blurted out. He studied her carefully. You're Becky's sister. Her breath caught. She used to ask questions. Too many. Then she stopped showing up. Lisa kept her voice even. She died. I heard. The man tilted his head. Shame. She wasn't bad, just didn't know when to stop. He walked away. Slowly. Casually. But his words were a threat, and a confirmation. Lisa took what she could from the cabin and left. Back in her flat, she spread the evidence across the floor. The folder, the photos, the field reports. It was enough. Not for court. But enough to demand an investigation. When she showed Carla everything, Carla was silent for a long time. This will destroy people, she said finally. They destroyed her. Carla nodded. Then we bring it forward. Properly. But I need to take the lead now. You're too close. Too exposed. Lisa reluctantly agreed. Carla took the evidence to the superintendent. She presented it methodically, detailing the inconsistencies, the corruption trail, the man with the scar, and the mishandling of Becky's case. The room fell silent. Then came a slow, deliberate instruction: the case was to be reopened. Off the record, for now. But it was a start. Lisa wasn't satisfied. That night, she made her own move. She leaked the photograph of the scarred man to a journalist she trusted at the Gazette. No names. No accusations. Just the question. Who is this man, and why was he with Officer Becky before she died? The article went live within hours. Weatherfield buzzed. Former colleagues started to whisper. An anonymous letter arrived at Lisa's door the next morning, containing nothing but a GPS coordinate and the words, "You're close." But not finished. The location led her to a closed storage unit on the outskirts of town. Inside, she found more documents, recordings, conversations between Becky and someone she called Kay. In one tape, Becky said, "I think they're going to come for me. If they do, make sure Lisa finds this." Lisa collapsed into the chair. Her sister had known. Now Lisa did too. The final piece was falling into place, but it meant someone inside the force had betrayed Becky. And that someone had to be close. Lisa turned to Carla. "We're not dealing with just a cover-up," she said. "We're dealing with murder." Carla's expression hardened. "Then we need to move fast. Before they realize how much you know." Lisa looked out across the cobbles. The quiet street hid too many secrets. But she wouldn't rest until Becky's voice was heard again. No matter the cost.